Good evening and welcome to the return of the Standards of Geekness podcast. I am your host, the voice that makes you moist, Hulk Hogan's retired bus driver, Evan Jones.
I got some brownies that I need you to speak to. They're really dried out right now. I don't know. Hey
Much like
everybody,
Hulk Hogan.
Brian, aka Brian Mercer here. And you know what? After Saturday Night's Made Up, I had to bust out my old favorite uh, classic championship belt, the Big Eagle. I don't care what anyone says about the Winged Eagle. The Big Eagle is always going to be the special one to me. It was the one Austin had, Triple H, Mankind, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho. Hell
Yeah, I mean, pardon me, guys, while I get a link ready for everybody to share. Gotta get back into the swing of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
has it been a long while? I mean, I'm super excited about this last week with Saturday Night Main Event, and just to let you guys know, Brian and I have been, pretty busy with real life. We've still been paying attention to wrestling. In regards to why we went on hiatus, more or less, combination of things. It was between the tournament drama, which we're not going to get into because, quite frankly, I don't give a flying fuck about any of that, and just real life. As Brian knows, 2024 has been kind of a rough year for me from a familial standpoint. Uh, Lost my stepfather. Hey, I had a heart attack on the job. Lost my uncle to blood and bone cancer. So it's been a really rough year. So just glad to be back into the swing of things.
My time hasn't been quite as rough for Evan in 2024, but it has been equally as busy as I have been fostering the Brian Mercer character and growing a new group with new champions and taking new companies by storm with a group called the Bradford Exchange, which has been really cool to be part of a stable and not just a one-on-one or alongside a tag team. So that's been a really interesting growth for my character, at least in the indie scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure to watch. What little bit I've been able to see on YouTube and like how we've discussed things and how you've really elevated that character to within the Bradford Exchange because most people don't know you guys actually have two kind of managers within the group. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. It's almost like a dangerous alliance kind of feel to it. That's the best way I would describe it. It's like an indie version of the Dangerous Alliance.
It's the whole idea behind it is that handsome Johnny Bradford, who is the other manager Evan is referring to, he's managed a lot of really successful superstars, including Edge, Christian, Rhino, Sabu, like some very notable wrestlers and Hall of Famers. And so to be alongside him, I'm his protege. I am the golden voice of the Bradford Exchange. And man, it is very liberating to be in that ring and
Yeah, I mean,
and trying the heat.
you've had a couple more matches under your belt since the last time we were on the air, and this time you didn't break your ankle. So
That was good. I'm happy to be back off with crutches and walking around.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess let's jump kind of right into Saturday Night Main Event. Just a heads up, guys, we will not be discussing any of tonight's Raw. Just in future podcasts, if it's live, we aren't discussing it. If you bring it up in chat, we will ignore it. We will circle back around to it to the following week. That said, you can always feel free to DM Brian and I on Facebook or Blue Sky or Instagram. Just to hit us up if you really want to discuss it. But we will not be discussing it live on the air unless it's like fundamentally, monumentally changing, like the stuff with Vince McMahon, for instance.
I think that something a lot of people, uh, forget in this modern landscape of the internet and instant information, you got to give people a chance to see the show. Just because it's live right now doesn't mean now is when everybody is going to be able to watch. I mean, Evan and I aren't able to. I've seen 2 segments from Raw
I
tonight
I think I've
before.
seen 2 or 3.
So
I think
I've seen
I
very
saw
little of
the
Raw
stuff
tonight.
with Braun Breaker and Ludwig Kaiser at the very beginning of the show.
Spoilers! Spoilers!
That's about it. But honestly, I was able to attend Raw a couple weeks ago here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I hadn't been to a WWE live event since WrestleMania 23 in Detroit. So for me, it was just an interesting experience. I wouldn't say they had a lot of top tier guys there. There was Seth Rollins, but Cody Rhodes wasn't there. They had Damian Priest and Gunther. No Roman Reigns, obviously, but it was still a really fun show. It was the return of Rhea Ripley. I got to see that a few weeks before it actually happened on the air, so that was pretty cool. And sign me up for anything that has mommy involved.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you something. Okay, so you went to Raw and you were there for one of the episodes where they did the multiple taping.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, WWE, great job.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that you found a way to give people time off during the holidays with their families.
Thanks, Triple
Wonderful
H.
decision. Great job, Triple H. Um, what was I saying? You were saying something.
You're talking about the double tapings.
The double tapings, right? So you said that when you were there, you didn't feel like there were a lot of the big stars.
Yeah.
Okay, and what I guess what my kind of question is, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, especially in the coming weeks with a channel switch or network switch, if you will, taking
Yeah.
place.
I think we're going to see that change.
But you named Cody Rhodes, you named Roman Reigns. You were there for Raw. You saw Damian Priest, Gunther, Mommy. You saw Seth
Yeah.
Rollins. Like you
I
saw all the Raw superstars, but those aren't the big name superstars.
Yeah, the
Don't,
closest to a mega star, I think is what you're getting at, that was there would be Seth or Rhea Ripley at this point. Obviously Bianca Belair is a star in of herself, and there's tons of talent there. But it's not like when you went to Raw or Nitro in the '90s, where when Hulk Hogan showed up, it was a big deal, and like there was Sting and like all these big name guys. They're still named guys and gals, but it's not. That's been the one issue I've had with Raw over the last year is it feels like SmackDown has had all the stars, like the mega
Mhm.
star. And I don't know if with the Netflix switch, which I'm actually really happy about. It's actually the only reason I'm keeping Netflix around at this point, because I can't usually watch Raw live just because it's on cable and I refuse to pay for cable. So I'm usually catching like a playback.
So I think that this is really coming down to kind of like the good and bad. You know, the the best situation that we've had in WWE for a long time, the best story we've had in WWE for a long time is the Bloodline story. I know there's
Yeah,
some people who are like sick of it. I don't care. I'm still in.
yeah, and I
I'm
was sick of it when it first started just because it seemed repetitive. But as it grew layers and developed more characters, and it was, you know, 2019 2020 period when it was just Roman Reigns cheats to win, it got a little stale for a little bit for me there.
hmm
But as it evolved, once they added Sami Zayn and it started getting layers beyond just one dimensional cheating heel, I was all in. I was sold. Like I was just like, Roman Reigns is actually gone there. He's at the level of Stone Cold and Taker and Rock. He's at that megastar level now. Cody's kind
absolutely.
of like right up under him. He's the Cena like of this generation. Um, it'll be really interesting to see what they do going forward. It's kind of interesting that Raw didn't have a lot of the superstars, and it didn't have the megastars. But as it moves to Netflix, a lot of people have been they've complained about Gunther's reign. A lot of people complain about Cody's reign. Will WWE pull the trigger to make a switch?
Okay. I don't think I don't think we're going to see an end to Gunther's reign. Mostly because I think if you were going to bring an end to Gunther's reign, the best time to do it would have been Sunday night or Saturday night on main event in a triple threat match where Gunther can take the loss and still be protected, and you can still go into a high energy program with Finn and Damian Priest. Whether you put the belt on Damian or put the belt on Finn doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think their feud needs the belt. My biggest problem is they haven't built up a credible babyface to really take on Gunther. You know, at that Raw, the first segment we saw after I got in the arena was Damian and Gunther having a promo segment where literally Damian just eviscerated him. Like you could see Gunther's lip quiver. He didn't look like the imposing ring general. He looked like a kind of a chicken shit heel. And I kind of think they kind of blew their load a little early by putting the belt on Gunther at this point. The problem is they didn't really have much else to do with him. He's at the level where he needs to take that step, but they haven't put a babyface in front of him that he can really, get over on.
I honestly think, and I don't want this to be taken because like of his accent or anything like that. I don't think Gunther should be speaking as much as he is. Gunther, I would rather have. He has improved. It's not. It's this has nothing to do with his speaking ability. This has to do with his character.
He's lost a lot of that mystique.
Gunther, I want Gunther to have a manager to speak for him because Gunther is too important to speak to me. Like he's too good to like he's the ring general. Why would he lower himself to speak to the common man? Like
honestly,
that real character needs to be he needs to set himself above. He needs to set himself higher. And by getting a manager who can like be that intermediary. I'm not saying that Gunther's a guy who needs someone to speak for him because he's incapable. I'm saying adding that element to that act.
Yes, I agree.
think would reinvigorate it and add that mystique that you're talking about back to the character. I don't think he needs to take the belt off him. I think he needs to keep the belt on him. If anything,
there has to be for a manager like that, obviously Paul Heyman's out of the question, but honestly, someone who I'd like to see do it, which I think would be really interesting, JBL.
All right. Obviously you can't say me. I get it. Present company excluded. JBL would be an interesting choice.
Think about the promos, especially that build with Cena and JBL had for Mania that year, where they were going after, the whole goes Hollywood and like all this, the you can't handle the truth kind of shit they were doing along the lines. Like JBL can cut a good promo, a good heel promo.
That's
another
very
thing
true.
that I think could really help. Bully Ray.
That's interesting. See, I actually like that choice more because of the size differential between Bully. Like when you're talking about JBL, you're talking with a much taller individual.
True, that's true.
And because, like again, this isn't about Gunther's inability to speak. This is about adding the element to the act. So actually, the one I was going to say is give me Dutch Mantel.
Ooh, that that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I honestly, I could be down with that.
Like it'd be a stark difference from everything he did, on his last run, which I think would be great because that whole gimmick he was doing with Jack Swagger.
I think that could have gotten over. I think the problem is Jack Swagger is a charisma vortex.
I think it actually, in the modern context, I actually think that's where you meet the MAGA crowd the MAGA wrestling crowd, is with that same like kind of Jack Swagger character, but I think you did it too soon. Life imitates art imitates life. But I think Dutch Mantel coming back now, you know what I mean, and being such a sharp contrast instead of him being like this all-American guy. Now he's representing the foreigner.
Well, yeah, it kind of harkens back to Sergeant Slaughter, draped in the Iraqi flag with, the Iron Sheik and all that stuff in the lead up to the Gulf War. It's an interesting dynamic. Jim Cornette could be another interesting one too.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take back what I said. I said Jim Cornette. You said Dutch Mantel. That's how I remember it.
Dutch Mantel has me blocked on social media. Let's just leave it at that.
That somehow doesn't surprise me. Did you tell him to do fucking better?
Yes, I did, because he posted some racist shit.
Sounds like Dutch Mantel.
Hey, Eric.
Hello, Eric. Eric, friend of the show, and it was Eric's birthday this last weekend. Happy birthday, Eric! It's a special happy birthday on the show.
Just make sure to go to enforcedshoe.com, enter your special code, one of only, 40% off. It'll get you HARD. Yeah. So let's back to so Saturday night main event. Honestly, the show as a whole was really solid. My only gripes really were with the triple threat match. There were a few botches on Damien's part, and I'm kind of over having Damien and Balor in the world title scene. I think their blood feud needs to just be a blood feud separate from that. Like we've expressed, like I said, Gunther. There's a lot of babyface options. You could go with the face Gunther. I mean, Jay Uso could be one. Sami Zayn. There's a lot of potential Raw superstars. An interesting one with Ludwig Kaiser feuding with Braun Breaker. Have Braun Breaker feud with him. Sheamus. There's a lot of ways you can go with this.
That feud, the Ludwig Kaiser Braun Breaker feud, is one I'm having a really hard time getting energized on.
So the part of my issue, and this is actually probably because it happened literally when I went to go take a piss at the Monday Night Raw where they were filming. I came back and it was the middle of the Breaker. I forget who he was facing. It was Braun Breaker. Yeah, it was Braun Breaker versus Sheamus. I'd had enough beers and I needed to pee, so I got up to take a piss and I come back and Ludwig Kaiser's out there destroying the place. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Apparently, there was a backstage segment where they beefed, and they didn't show that. But
the issue I'm having with it is like Braun Breaker is being given this very middle of the road neutral character. He's not being established as a babyface or a heel, and that's very frustrating for such a new character to the roster. You have him in this feud with Jey Uso, and as soon as he's doing, heel, great, awesome. We've established he's a heel, and now he turns around and is immediately supposed to be the babyface in this feud with Ludwig Kaiser. And I guess the thing is, you've given me no reason to cheer for you outside of your athleticism.
Yes, and he is a genetic freak, just like his uncle, just like his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
The Steiners, genetic freaks. My problem is I'm not invested enough in the character because they haven't given me a reason enough yet.
And that's it. Yeah. All the elements are there except for an actual story that you're telling with him. And I almost feel like the whole reason he's carrying a championship is just to keep him warm. Just to keep him relevant until we figure out what the hell to do with him.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, that's probably one of my big gripes with Triple H's booking since he's taken over as the primary booker is he's had a lot of that where he seems like he's has a lot of placeholder feuds, and they kind of are decent, but like it's almost like he's being too flexible. He needs to maybe take a hammer and nail a few more things down to the board. I was kind of digging Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, their whole feud leading into War Games, and I
Well,
know Bronson
okay,
got
so
injured.
yeah, and I think that's the big stopper on that. I think
Oh,
that was meant to keep going
yeah,
because what I think it was I think they were gonna bring Bronson Reed into the Seth Rollins CM Punk
yeah.
feud
Yeah, that was
as a
very, very
third element.
telegraphed that feud was going to happen, and I think that's what we're going to get at WrestleMania,
Well,
night
And it,
one.
well, and if you think about it, and you've done, and like you and I have both done a lot of booking exercises. Go ahead, count it out. How long do we have from now till WrestleMania? Do you want to do that feud with just those two, or would you like to add one more person to the mix to help you make it through? I mean, if you add Bronson Reed into that little spectrum, you get a singles match between Seth Rollins and Bronson at a pay per view. You get one between CM Punk and Bronson at a pay per view,
Triple
and
threat.
then you get a triple threat. And now we're up to Mania, where we can have CM Punk go one on one with Seth Rollins.
Well, and I kind of think that's where Drew McIntyre is coming into the picture too. I think we might see a crash out crew, if you will, kind of akin to the Beatdown Clan from TNA. We've got Drew, Seth, and KO all gunning for Roman Reigns and or people that have helped him.
The anti bloodline, yeah.
Yeah. And I
I
mean,
but I like that. I like how natural
yeah.
that cohesion is coming together because it's clear. It's clear as day. Like those elements are there, and they even right now have not connected at all.
hmm I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Especially that dynamic between Drew and Seth. Probably had the feud of the summer. Honestly, feud of the year. They got a lot of miles out of that, a lot more than I thought they would,
Mhm.
especially with all the injuries.
When okay, I gotta hand it to Drew McIntyre too, specifically to carry as much of that feud on his back with CM Punk being injured, not on television for months. Just absolutely amazing job.
hmm Hey, Chris, what's up?
What's going on, Chris? Good to see you.
Yeah. So yeah, back to Saturday Night Main Event. Drew winning versus Sami Zayn, I think was the correct choice. Funny enough, Sami Zayn has not beaten Drew, I believe, in their last 12 matches. I think that's leading to something where Sammy's eventually going to go over on him. I think they're telling a small story within the story. I think it was dating back to 2022 when when the Bloodline and Clash at the Castle, the first one was happening.
I think it would be okay. So you talked about the little the unit that is forming,
Mm-hmm.
that unit that's forming between um, where we can see forming down the line between like Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre. Sami Zayn, that's that element that fits that part of the story together. Will Sami Zayn turn on the bloodline this time and join? You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many elements um, to that story, but the problem is, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is just like you still don't have that on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're still going back to the bloodline. That's still the most interesting thing, and until you have at least another story like Drew and CM Punk that is as emotionally charged
Well, and
we're
I
gonna
think we're going
talk
to get there
about
with Seth and CM Punk, but I think it's going to take time. I could see that lasting quite a while.
it.
You know, so speaking of things where I'm not really emotionally invested, Liv beating Io Sky. I don't. Anybody that thought Io Sky was going to win that match needed a reality check. They've been protecting Liv really, really well. They
Liv
just
will be Liv is going all the way to WrestleMania to defend the title against Rhea Ripley.
yes,
And
and
like, if anyone doesn't see that, well,
yeah,
like, you're kidding yourself.
yeah. And I think it's the logical conclusion. And after that, I really don't want to see those two face each other. I'm kind of over it at this point. What is interesting to me is people online are bitching that Rhea Ripley's being booked as too strong, or it's taking multiple women to restrain her. Did you guys not watch the Attitude Era? Stone Cold Steve Austin stopped a mud hole literally in one episode of SmackDown in the asshole of the entire roster, and that was
I
a common theme.
remember I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin laying out the entire roster of WCW and ECW simultaneously after they had like taken out Undertaker, Kane, uh, Rock, Angle, everybody. Like, come on, man.
It's just people whining to hear themselves whine. It's quite a common theme with the IWC marks. Do fucking better, guys.
And I think part of what is worrying me about Liv Morgan's and Rhea Ripley's feud here is that while I really enjoy Rhea Ripley, I enjoy Liv Morgan. The most entertaining part of this feud
It's Carlito.
is the one not in the ring for it.
Yep.
It's Damien.
Now I can't argue with either. My problem is, and it's kind of funny. Judgment Day's had this weird dichotomy where Rhea, Damien, and Dominic are the three that are actually over. Like as heels, they
Mhm.
were over. As babyfaces, Damien and Rhea are both over. Dominic, I haven't seen someone get booed that hard out of the building since Muhammad
Ever.
Hassan after 9/11.
But this is like genuine, like, this is the kind of heat you want.
Yeah, it's not X-Pac heat.
Okay, hold on. Gotta give a close second to my boys, the New Day.
They definitely did it. For those of you who aren't in the know, a few weeks ago, the New Day turned on Big E. I was originally against the idea. I was kind of over them as a tag team unit. I thought a singles feud actually would have been more compelling. But as I've sat on it and watched the reactions and just rewatched that segment, not only was it masterfully done, I think it really was the right call. I can agree to that now.
I said right from the get go that I thought it was one of the best segments that I have seen in a long, long, long time. I absolutely loved it. Because I always like when you circumvent expectation. You know, when you set up a good expectation and then all of a sudden it twists on you. And that's what happened in that segment. You expected Xavier to turn on Kofi or Kofi to turn on Xavier. You never expected those two to come together by turning on Big E. Like, nobody saw
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think part of the problem for a lot of fans, especially the fans of the New Day, is Big E can't wrestle. His neck's broke. He's not medically cleared. So like, there's not really a payoff for him. But I think the more I thought about it, the payoff isn't for him. The payoff's for Kofi and Woods to get a revitalization because now that they're the Brotherhood, not the New Day, they don't have to be rainbow sparkles and Rudy Tooty Fruity Booty. They can be about business, winning championships, and booty.
They can still have cereal. I'm still
Instead
all
of
about.
Udios, it's just dicks.
You should market. You should market that to Xavier Woods. I think he'd get down on it.
That's okay. I beat him playing Master Duel the other night.
Yeah, actually, interesting story. For some of you who know, and those of you who don't, actually, Evan and I originally met playing the card game Yu-Gi-Oh! Recently, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Online game Master Duel. They had this big tournament with a masked man, and the whole like prize of it was whoever won the tournament would play against this masked individual. When the masked individual was unmasked, it was actually Xavier Woods, a Mr. Up Up Down Down, which I thought was pretty cool.
I did too. It's not often the last one they did was a singer, I think, from One Direction, if I recall correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
Some British group. Daniel could probably speak to that because
Yeah,
he's so
I don't know. I'm
British
not
trumpet.
cool enough. I'm a dad now. I'm not cool
I'm
enough
dad
to
too, but I
know.
don't know any love boy bands.
Exactly, that's the point.
But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that they did with the New Day, and props to Triple H, to Woods, Xavier, even Biggie. Nobody really saw that coming. The women's U.S. title, obviously Chelsea Green won her first WWE championship, the women's new U.S. title. She's the first ever champion. And, Matt Cardona is now one half of the U.S. women's champion. Got to give
I
props to him
was
as well.
just gonna say, finally, Matt Cardona getting a real run with the championship.
He's going to somehow get a second Grand Slam if she goes all the way
Yeah.
to winning the women's title.
For real, I really, really, and I'm saying it right now on the pod, okay? Because I want everyone to hear, and you know that I've made this prediction already. I am calling for Matt Cardona. This is the year. Matt Cardona in the Royal Rumble.
I think it makes sense, and I mean he's done almost everything there is to do on the Indies. I'm honestly shocked he's not in AEW or WWE at this point. I've been, calling for him to actually like get a push from someone for years. I mean, you remember with the GCW stuff, I was literally
Mm-hmm.
the only person that was like he's gonna win. Like, I was literally the only person,
He
and then he did.
became the baddest man in indie wrestling for a while there. He has advanced his character. It's a lot like Drew McIntyre. Actually, I think this is a really good comparison. If you look at what Drew McIntyre was when he was released by WWE, after doing the boy band shtick there, um, to what he came back, and then that Scottish Warrior presentation that he has now. It's night and day in terms of his character.
He's
And
the Scottish psychopath shit.
yeah, but the important part is you look at him now and you go, that man can win a world championship. That man is a tough ass son of a bitch. You looked at him when Vince McMahon debuted Drew McIntyre and said, one day this man's gonna be a world champion, and you were like, but he looks like he just got off the bus, like.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super happy to see what Chelsea Green does as the new women's U.S. champion. I think the perfect first feud for her is Natalya, babyface Natalya Neidhart, leading into WrestleMania versus Chelsea Green.
I don't know. I have a little bit of trouble with Natalya, just because I feel like her character has become very bland.
Well, that's part of the problem with a lot of the roster. Is that's part of the problem they had. Like I said, there are superstars and then there's megastars. Then there's the rest. But
And
I
that's
think
fair. I
with the
think.
right motivation here, we could tell a good story.
See, I would really like Chelsea Green. I think this is a good opportunity, and I'm not going to name any names because I think there's a couple of choices. But just, I think this is an opportunity. You bring up somebody from NXT, you advance somebody, and you let them have a losing program against Chelsea Green for the undercard championship right out the gate. It gets them exposure, gets Chelsea Green an easy program, an easy win. You get through the holidays, and then you can get to the Royal Rumble where you actually do something, or even more likely in February, because like just being realistic about how the Royal Rumble is normally set up, there's usually only like maybe 3 matches,
Mm-hmm.
4 matches, and then the Rumble itself. So it's not like a normal like 7, 8, 9 match card.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah, and now you have now we have 2 Rumbles. Like the time constraints of the Rumble itself, because it's such a long match. That means a
Getting that
lot
down
less.
into a 5-hour show is going to be rough.
Right. So if you let Chelsea Green have a singles program with some with some up and comer into February, and then build her in a program from February into Mania with a bigger name star, now
Yeah,
you have actually some stakes and some like credibility to the title.
I could see that. I mean, Sol Ruka would be a good choice. Nice baby face.
Like I can't see her losing the belt before Mania. I think it'd
No,
be
I don't.
just
I don't either. And then, obviously, the main event: Cody Rhodes defeated Kevin Owens, doing a Crossroads on
wait a minute, hold on. I think you're inaccurately reporting. My boy Kevin Owens walked out. He walked out of Saturday night's main event with the championship.
but he didn't win.
You know,
ESPN, facts are facts,
hold,
tape is tape. Scoreboard.
okay, hold on. Let's agree to disagree here. Kevin Owens left Cody Rhodes laying with a package pile driver. Cody was taken away on a stretcher. Owens carried away the championship. I think if you ask Kevin Owens, he'd call that a pretty big win.
I mean, I can't argue with that. But the scoreboard still says Cody Rhodes is the WWE Universal Undisputed
Well,
Champion.
of course, the scoreboard says that Cody Rhodes won the match. Of course, the scoreboard says that it's all in Cody Rhodes' favor. We all know that the WWE is skewed and it's all a big conspiracy to help the Golden Boy. Okay, you know who should be the Golden Boy? Kevin Owens.
You mean the Canadian Dream? Honestly, the shirts every week that he's worn, especially the Stardust one with the Universal Championship, I about lost my shit laughing seeing that.
Daniel Roberts says Kevin Owens was screwed, and that's the first thing Daniel Roberts has gotten right.
Sun shines in a dog's asshole once a day at least.
And a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, though, this whole feud, I was a little worried at first, with how they did the turn and involving Randy and it didn't quite connect initially. But as they built this towards this, they've done a masterclass. They have shown sides to both men, the irrational, you know, erratic behavior, the crash out Kevin Owens is honestly what I want to call him because I was watching this clip on TikTok on my lunch break today. And it was literally like 10 minutes of him just crashing out and blowing up angry at people. And that's literally been his thing for like a couple of years. But like now it's like heightened. And like seeing like the shades of Cody Rhodes getting frustrated, just talking to people like he wouldn't normally talk, kind of some of that varnish is coming off the surface there. And like, him pushing Carmelo Hayes a few weeks ago and like doing all this stuff. And it's really interesting that they've managed to do this in such a way that not only makes KO look like a real threat again, which you and I both have talked ad nauseum that we felt he needed to be treated as a threat.
Absolutely, especially after his losses to Reigns. After multiple losses to Reigns, I think that really hurt his credibility.
Yeah, and then the way that they presented Cody in the match, almost borderline heel-like. I mean, doing the crossroads on a steel chair, that's taking the cheap way out. Maybe Kevin is right.
Kevin is right. I've been a Kevin Owens fan for a long time. You know, Kevin Owens is like my favorite performer on the roster right now. Um, but but to give our viewers a little peek behind the curtain, before we started tonight's broadcast, I said to Evan that I wasn't going to talk to him about a couple of things. I wasn't going to talk. I wasn't going to mention a couple of things in our like little pre-show warm up because I wanted to get his reaction right here on air. So, Evan, here we go. I want to know. I want to know if you think what I think. I want to know if you believe that for the first time in a very, very, very long time, the Royal Rumble will be for the WWE Undisputed Championship.
It would be an interesting way to get the belt off of Cody. I don't
Is the
think
belt already off of Cody? And I am being legitimate about this. There have been like posts being made by WWE all day today about how Cody's injured, about how he has all these spinal issues. He's going to be out of action. Is this just a way to get him off air for the holidays? Or
it'd be convenient.
It would be convenient, but why stop there? Cody Rhodes is a more interesting character as a babyface chasing after a championship than he is holding a champion.
I think that's why when we both talked, I think that's why we both felt like his character has gotten kind of stale. I personally, if we're going this route, right, I don't bring him back. I let somebody else win the belt. I bring him back at Mania, full Homelander. Well, AEW fans turned on him. The WWE fans turned on him. He goes full crash out Homelander from the boys, like people have been begging him to do for years. Fine, if you won't love me, I'll make you love me. And
wouldn't it be something if he was part of that group with Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre? Owens beat some sense into me.
I have an interesting thought. What if that's what The Rock was whispering to him all along? What if The Rock tempts him over to the dark side?
I thought of that actually. Like when you mentioned him returning at WrestleMania, like, well, what if that could be alongside The Rock or at The Rock's behest?
What if he helps The Rock win the title against Reigns at Mania? Full circle.
I don't know. Okay, that one is a little hard for me to believe, more because I don't see The Rock ever being champion again.
I mean, he's on the board of directors. He can do whatever he wants at this point.
Well, okay, and that's true, but he makes a lot more money making movies than he does wrestling.
That's true. Another interesting, I guess kind of a spoiler before we get too deep. Next week, Brian and I are planning on tackling how we would build towards WrestleMania. We're going to choose to build our stories leading into WrestleMania. And the whole episode will be us talking about, if night one we're going to do, 4 matches. Night 2 we'll do 4 matches. We'll just call it nice even 4 and 4. There might be more, there might be less, regardless. We'll pick 4 on each night. We'll build them how we'll choose point A, point Z.
And to make sure that everyone has a good understanding of where we're coming from, basically because this is WrestleMania and because of Netflix taking over Raw and us assuming that the rosters are going to be all sorts of wonky ways, none of the current roster rules will be in effect for this. It's a field day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Didn't see it.
Booker's delight.
Yep. And we're gonna try to do some unique things, and we might not cover every single one of your favorite characters. Somebody might get left on the cutting room floor. That's the challenge.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing that I'll be interested to hear from you, Evan, and our viewers is I actually do think I have the perfect opponent for Braun Breaker. We'll get to that next week. This week we have a very fun topic that
Yes.
has been just brooding in my brain for weeks now, even before we
Well,
did this podcast.
so
And go ahead, Evan. Go ahead.
preface this, guys. Brian and I have been big AEW stalwarts since inception. We were at All In, the original All In Chicago. We were huge fans of the Elite, huge fans of AEW. We were excited about wrestling. It reunited our passion for wrestling, and it helped a boom in the business. No doubt,
I
those are all facts.
wouldn't even go as far as to say that original All In show still to this day
Top five.
was the best show that I have ever been to. Not necessarily like the best wrestling and the best storytelling, but if you understood the emotion that was in that arena, it was like nothing else.
When I think of that, I think about how people felt about WrestleMania 1 or 3.
Yeah,
Like when I
exactly.
see old playbacks of those, that's what I think of. Um, Shut the fuck up, Dan. So yeah, WWE has obviously been hitting their stride with Triple H taking over. They don't have crazy 80-year-old Vince McMahon and his shitscapades. AEW has
But
been the drizzling shits for months. And I hate to say it, but we deal in reality, we deal in facts. The product sucks. And it's not just the wrestling. There's some good matches. Don't get me wrong. If you just put them on an indie card, they'd be good matches. But you can't tell me a solid storyline point at this point, outside of Tony Storm, a timeless Tony Storm, or the whole Kenny Omega being a heel with the elite stuff that led to Hangman getting over and becoming world champ, and obviously all the stuff with CM Punk. They don't have credible stars. This whole Flu Klux Klan Combat Club with the Death Riders and John lack of fucking charisma Moxley. I literally I want to change the channel every time they come out.
so I really think that a lot of this all begins with Real Glass. Okay. And I know you know what I mean by that. And Jack Perry and him wanting to use Real Glass.
Stupid.
How that directly led to CM Punk leaving. Okay. And when CM Punk completely left the picture, unfortunately, it left this huge vacuum in AEW's charisma pool. And all that was there, all that was left was MJF and Adam Cole. MJF and Adam Cole, who were being overexposed, overworked, and injured. Both of them got injured in the middle of all of that. You used them up, and then on the backside of it, when you finally got them both back and healthy, you've flipped the script to now MJF is back to being a heel. Adam Cole is a babyface, and the rest of us are sitting here trying to legitimately understand how Adam Cole can both be a babyface and justify all the shit he did to MJF as the devil. What? John Moxley is coming around here, and he's telling us all that he's going to save AEW. From what, though?
That's my
And this And this is where I think a really sharp contrast is being drawn. And then if you look at John Moxley's character, you look at Kevin Owens' character, we've been talking and praising all through this pod. This is the stark contrast. Kevin Owens, he told us what he's here to save us from, why he has these convictions, what has driven him. We have seen this whole progression and why, and we understand this motivation. And if you agree with it, if you don't agree with it, doesn't matter, because Kevin Owens, you can believes it. John Moxley,
I don't think he believes what he's saying.
I don't. Well, what? Again, what are you saving it from? Are you here to save AEW from Tony Khan?
Then
If so, I would like to remind everyone that we are doing a fundraiser right now, okay? Because there are a lot of AEW stars that have gone missing. When's the last time that you saw Ray Phoenix? When's the last time that you saw Miro? Danhausen's family housing needs him home housing.
Very nice. Very home.
And that's why we're asking everybody to call this number on our screen. 1-800-TK-IDIOT. Donate $1. Just $1. So that Danhausen's family housing can have him home housing for Christmas housing. There's a lack of baby faces in AEW, and this is a significant problem. And when I say baby faces, I mean real baby faces. Credible baby faces.
Orange Cassidy's not it, my boy.
Can I tell you?
This speaks to a larger problem, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people used to joke that Tony Khan viewed these wrestlers as real-life action figures. No, I think he actually fucking thinks they're action figures because of the way he has burned them out, treated them. This whole thing with Ray Phoenix, with his contract situation, when now Penta's gone, you're going to tack a year on. Isn't that the same shit you lambasted Vince McMahon for doing? You're no fucking better than him. There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's kind of ridiculous. You have Tony Khan with all these links to the NFL, and why aren't we hooking up these wrestlers with doctors over here rather than telling them they need to go find their own doctors, pay for their own doctors, and hey, we'll reimburse you on the back end.
Yeah, that's a big fucking pet peeve of mine in the corporate world, is the fact that, like, you're expected to pay out of pocket, they'll reimburse you. That no, you're the company, you take care of it. That's how that works.
Can I tell you, one of the, I haven't brought this up yet, but one of the biggest missed opportunities that I think the AEW has had in its entirety. You wanted, okay, we need a babyface, a main event, a true main event quality babyface in AEW, right?
Yeah.
And you brought Okada in as a heel.
I actually was okay with that. It was different. My big problem with that is they did nothing with it.
They're still doing nothing with it. For those of you who don't know, Okada is the Rainmaker is one of the longest reigning New Japan champions of all time. If you really want to see Okada at his best, honestly, there's a whole series of matches he had with Kenny Omega. Those are the matches that really put Omega on the map. Go watch them. They're an hour long apiece. They're incredible.
My whole thing is the lack of planning, the lack of just like, you're allowing Kenny Omega to come back, one of your top stars. He's going to a New Japan show. Are you fucking kidding me?
MJF.
Are you fucking kidding me?
MJF is apparently promoting his AEW stuff
in a
in.
Long Island indie last night where the Costco guys show up, which that's a larger. I don't mind cross promotion. I think it's brilliant. I think it works out. Got them a lot more buzz. The Costco guys are drawing more into your company than your stars currently are. I'm dead
Mhm.
fucking serious. I am more invested in the Costco guys than I am in your top fucking story. Orange Cassidy ain't it. He's not a top babyface. He's a top mid card babyface at best. Same with
That,
Darby Allin. Same with Darby Allin.
okay. And the thing about Orange Cassidy too, and I think Orange Cassidy even knew this. Like I knew this.
There's a ceiling to that
Anyone with any brains knew this. The gimmick was fun, but it was never gonna last. It was like
it is capped.
you can only do the hands in the pockets gimmick for so long.
It's true. Like honest to God, it is do something with him. And I like that they've started to have him get a little more serious in his promos. I'm fine with that. But he's not connecting with the audience through that. And then you've reintroduced Jay White to the mix, which he was a heel like 2 weeks ago. Now he's a babyface. And you've got him getting death by snoo in the middle of the ring by Marina Shafir, which, I don't blame him. It looked like he was smiling during that, but like, it's a lack of detail and a lack of presentation. Like, you wonder why you're drawing record low crowds. It's garbage like this. And then you've got Mr. 50-50, Hangman Adam Page, which they did. Him versus Swerve was really good. I'll give him that. That was like the high spot during this whole post CM Punk era. Is they're built with Swerve and getting Hangman over as a heel, and the stuff with Bryan Danielson. All great shit. But you have failed to get me invested. They've got a fatal 4-way at World's End. Mox versus Orange Cassidy versus Hangman versus Jay White. You want to know what? Or versus Christian Cage, or whatever it is. I forget. That's literally how little I have invested in this match. It is a forgetful 4-way.
Well, I think part of the so you have some individuals. Christian Cage is a really good example here that have developed a character. Yes. The character that Christian Cage has developed in AEW is one of the shining points of AEW. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say I think that the patriarchy is my favorite part of Christian's career, and that's including those tag team matches back with the Hardys and Dudleys.
The stuff with him in TNA with Edge, or with AJ Styles and Tomko, that shit was gold. The shit with him and Kurt Angle in TNA, that was gold. This stuff with the patriarchy it's good. But I don't see a point in having him in that fatal 4-way. He's got a contract to cash in. Like, have a babyface. Have Orange Cassidy win the title. And have Christian take it from him within 30 seconds. Have him beaten bloody to a pulp. John Moxley.
That
was on purpose. But I just
can't believe you're paying me to laugh.
A forgetful 4-way. Like, and the worst part is Jay White has tons of charisma. He knows how to get over. He did it in New Japan.
All these guys have tons of charisma.
They have the potential, but I just don't understand. I don't understand Tony Khan's booking here. Like, Tony, do fucking better. The show is shit, and it makes me sad. Sadder than Andre Splinter's mom's tits. Sad.
That's sad. Depressing. Tony Khan, I really believe. I think one of the big what I think would solve a lot of the problems for AEW. Number one, Tony, I love that you gave us a second option. I love that AEW is a thing. Okay, but now that you've made it a thing, I think you need to be a little more Ted Turner and a little less Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that held WCW back for so many years was they kept putting guys in this role, in this leadership position, who didn't have experience in the wrestling industry. Over on the other side in WWE, you have Triple H, the guy who's had more experience in the wrestling industry than any of his predecessors. And look how well it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do yourself a favor, take some of those aged guys who have been around the block,
Learn from
and
them.
and actually put them in roles of responsibility. Have
Create
them
a
book your
booking
show.
and how I personally would fix AEW to piggyback kind of off. I would create a booking committee, and if I'm Tony Khan, I've got 2 phone calls with a blank checkbook. Jim Cornette, Bully Ray. Those are the 2 guys I bring in to fix AEW. I do a hard brand split. One of each of them. Bully gets ROH, Cornette gets AEW. The EVPs, they're all just regular talent at this point. Gone are your roles. I'm sorry. The Elite got the company to where it needed to, but nobody
Did
fucking
they?
cares.
But did they though? Like just being real about it. How much of the work was it that was the Elite versus how much of it was Cody Rhodes?
Yes, and I think we'll never know the story of why Cody truly left. Obviously, probably money was a factor, and obviously Cody wanted to go back to WWE and finish his story. But something clearly happened to flip the switch there that he needed to leave. And it's more than just those things. I personally, I think that there needs to stop being an over reliance on the old guys. The only way the business continues is to progress it forward, to move towards the future. If your insistence on making Orange Cassidy the top babyface, I don't get it. I would build around Will Ospreay or Hangman as my top babyfaces, and I would stop 50-50 booking them. I would create an alliance of babyfaces to take on the Ku Klux Combat Club.
I think Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is a really good one. When you're talking about guys, I would build my company around. Will
Him,
Ospreay,
Okada,
like Ospreay and Okada, could be your main event program. Like you could piggyback, like you could base that, put that as your golden gem.
mm-hmm.
Like dead serious. That's your
Stop giving it away
WrestleMania
for
main
free.
event right there.
Stop giving it away for free to pop a rating. Your ratings suck. Save it for the pay-per-view, where people are at least
Mm-hmm.
paying to see your fucking product. Build a bigger story. And I think there needs to be a move away from the high spot wrestling, in my opinion, too. I think they need to do themselves a favor.
What?
Mix in some different styles of wrestling, spread it
But
out.
Ricochet created AEW.
Well, maybe he should pull his finger out of his ass and actually listen to the fans. That
Okay,
was on purpose.
real quick, Rick, real quick. I want your opinion. You think he really believes all that crap he's putting on social media, or do you think this is all just a work?
No, I think he actually believes it.
Okay.
I
No, I've been wondering for a minute. Like, is this just like
I thought it
is
was a
this
work at first,
some
but like
metal work?
he just keeps digging deeper, and I'm like, no, he believes it. And don't get me wrong, I think bringing in old timers like Chris Jericho, Christian, they all serve a purpose to forward the business. Christian's done a great job. Honestly, Chris Jericho, even though he's annoyed me at times, and I still want to know where you were at January 6th, Chris.
Chris Jericho is an all time great, but I think with I think just like with where things are at, I think Jericho needs to take a break. I'd like to see. I need to see a long. I'm ready to see a long break from Chris Jericho, and
I
either
actually
come
don't
back in
mind
the
the
ring.
learning tree gimmick as a whole. I think I would transition him to a manager.
See, and I understand where you're saying with that, the manager mentor role, but that's part of why I'm saying like I'm ready to. Chris Jericho is one of my all-time favorites, absolute all-time favorites. But I'm ready to see Chris Jericho head into the sunset. Chris Willett, I think they should stop having people kick out of finishers multiple times. Finishers don't mean as much as they used to anymore. 100%. And this isn't just an AEW problem.
This is a
This is
wrestling problem.
this is a wrestling problem. AEW, WWE, TNA, the Indies.
You got to use your moves to connect, to draw. You're using your body to emotionally draw people in. And if I'm hitting, the Deus Ex Machina on the Alpha Angel Brian Mead, and he kicks out after one, the crowd's not going to care as much the next time I hit it. Well, let's say I hit the Deus Ex Machina, and Brian kicks out at 2 3/4.
Well,
okay, edge of the seat. It's like a slow edging game, for lack of a better term. They're getting you to get closer to the edge of your seat until you're rising up.
the whole thing that frustrates me about it is like I don't. There are times to kick out of the finisher, a finisher.
Absolutely.
However, it should be in service of the story that's being told in the match. I'm going to give an example here. So, like, I'm a manager. I recently had a multi-man tag team match, and we were talking about the match and different spots. And this one didn't actually come up in the match, but it was at one point pitched that I was actually going to hit an X Factor on my opponent, and they were going to kick out at one pretty much immediately. The whole thesis behind it being, I'm a manager. So me hitting a move is
impact that
is non-consequential. Like it highlights how weak I am.
Mm-hmm. Which is a storytelling mechanism, and I think that's what a lot of casual wrestling fans and some of the AEW diehards and WWE diehards is they don't realize is that you guys are invested in a story. You're invested in a storytelling medium. These people are using their bodies to tell you a story. They're using their moves, their move sets, if you will. Which interesting thing happened between Hangman and Punk again. But they're using these to tell these stories to get you emotionally invested. And yes, a manager should look weak in comparison to a wrestler. That's the whole fucking point.
I think the hierarchy goes referee, manager, wrestler.
Yep. And
so, but I'll tell you, who's? Oh, hold on. I left one out. Okay, so referee, manager, wrestler, cameraman. Because those motherfuckers pop right back up. It's incredible. You know who should be getting title shots is the damn cameraman.
Vacant going one-on-one with the cameraman. Honestly, WWE, if AEW ever does hold, hire AEW's camera crew. For the love of God, you will break the internet. You're welcome. My point being is, I am so tired of it. Like, I start to put on AEW and I'm just like, I don't fucking care. And that hurts me because, like I said, we were day one guys. We were big believers. Hell, they were doing well 2019, 2020, and into 2021. Despite the pandemic, they were still doing relatively well. They were beating NXT regularly. Now NXT blows them out of the water every single fucking week.
I was watching. I was watching the Stevie Richards podcast, and he was talking about Paul Heyman and doing shoot promos, and it was kind of interesting because he specifically mentioned how a shoot promo, it comes across very Vince Russo esque.
Mm-hmm.
And you think back to WCW towards the end there, and how that Vince Russo style had really like crept in, and you think about the kind of promos like John Moxley's delivering,
It's
and
like
it feels like that, and it's just icky. Like it doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like a product I'm getting invested in because I'm excited to see this guy fight this guy. And that's, at the end of the day, the whole basis of professional wrestling. It's supposed to be this guy versus this guy. And
You gotta give me
I don't give a damn who John Moxley fights. That's the problem. You haven't given me a hero to believe in, and you've given me no reason to even, quite frankly, despise the heel, because I don't even know what the heel believes in.
It's sad. You're absolutely right, and I think Tony kind of maybe forgets that this is a storytelling medium sometimes, and these are real people with real lives and real careers that you're jeopardizing for ego. And honestly, you should be ashamed of yourself. Even Vince McMahon he focused on the character. Even if they were bad fucking characters, like the Gobbledy fucking Gook or Tugboat, they were still characters. People still laughed, they cried, they chuckle fucked when they saw shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the last time I gave a damn about an AEW match. I want to say it was CM Punk versus MJF dog collar match, or Mark Briscoe, the Briscoes versus FTR dog collar match.
I was excited for the first match between MJF and Cole. I knew they were hurt going in.
Yeah,
so that made it a little difficult. But I was still excited to see two performers who I enjoyed watching, mix it up. And that being said, I think that a great disservice was done to everybody, including them, because they weren't able to do that anywhere near 100%.
I absolutely agree. And I mean, I think AEW had problems before CM Punk and Jack Perry and the whole incident, but this exposed everything. And then doubling down on the security footage, I was like, okay, I could kind of understand. You made Jack Perry look like a bitch. You propped up a guy who wasn't even on your show anymore. You probably broke your NDA somehow. It's just bad decision after bad decision, all to feed one man's ego and his desire to play with his real life Kenner fucking action figures. Well, guess what, you Jabba the Hutt chuckle fuck?
It's Tony Schiavone going on Nitro and saying, yeah, Mick Foley's going to win the championship over on the other show. That'll put a lot of butts in the seats. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's childish. And you gave win to CM Punk. You let him live in your head. And I think Hangman still lives in CM Punk's head. There are all these little digs back and forth through social media. Phil, Adam, you're both grown men. It's time to grow the fuck up. You both said some dumb shit. You both did some dumb shit. You both need to do fucking better.
Well, what just baffles me about it is like, if I'm CM Punk, why do I care? Like the amount of money he's got to be making at this point. He's in the spotlight. He's getting his WrestleMania main event like he always wanted. Like all his dreams have come true.
Like, I never thought we'd see CM Punk in a WWE ring, but thanks to Tony fucking Khan and his dumbass decision making, here we are. And thank you.
I always knew. I always knew that one day we'd see CM Punk back in a WWE ring because I have said for years that, to be perfectly honest, I always thought it was a work.
I don't think that was a work. Firing somebody on their wedding day.
Yeah, absolutely. And making that information public.
That's a long way to
Here's this is what I'm saying, okay? And part of it goes back. I want you to look at some of the ring gear that CM Punk has worn, and think about that. You know, all of this had 1,001 shades of Bret the Hitman Hart. And I said for a long time, I said for a long time, you know, the most brilliant angle in the fucking world would be if, like, Bret, like all the Montreal Screwjob thing, it was all a work. Bret was in on it, went to WCW, did the whole thing, also that he could come back later. Like that was the whole plan. I mean, we know they talked about doing that with Brian Pillman, and things just fell out the bottom. But who's to say that they haven't tried to do that with other people since? And CM Punk is that kind of different long-term angle cat. You know what I mean? He wants to go out and do his UFC thing. He needs to heal from his injuries. He gets more name exposure, all this stuff. There's a lot more the WWE could have done to stop CM Punk chance if they really wanted to.
It's an interesting thought process. It's you have to be hella committed.
I mean and I understand that I am doing some professional wrestling, grassy knoll shit, you know, moon landing in a studio, conspiracy level stuff right now. I get that, but that's what I do.
And you had me actually interested in it, which is more than I could say for AEW at this point. All right, well, we're going to open it up to a little, we got, I think, 12 minutes before we're going to call this, so we'll open it up to a Q&A if you want to come on. We will send you the link. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be back. Obviously, Mark.
A mark pretending to be a mark.
See, this I would be down for.
Wrestling conspiracies with Jesse Ventura and Brian. I mean, I would do that.
You see, Brian, me, Jesse the Body.
Bigfoot came into the dressing room and he took my boots and my
Andre
tights.
the Giant was
I had to borrow tights from Jake the Snake. And Jake the Snake, he wears brown tights, nothing like my electric blue.
And you know why Jake wore brown tights, right? Because when he hit that DDT, sometimes he would shit himself. I'm just hearing the fucking Unsolved Mysteries theme in my head. Actually, Eric, you might have had a brilliant idea. Why don't we create a new segment where you can come on and host it with Brian? It'll be our secondary show. So,
But you have to dress as Jesse Ventura.
oh,
You have to play Jesse Ventura for all of that.
that would be great. Question to you and Brian: should AEW be making bigger? I don't think you have to make releases and cuts. I think they definitely have over inflated themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a bit much bigger plan.
The roster side. Okay, so this is my attitude about work. Okay, has nothing to do with the wrestling industry. This is my attitude about work. If you don't want to be here,
Then no.
don't be here. There are several wrestlers in the AEW on the AEW roster that have actively asked for their release, from Aleister Black to Miro to Ray Phoenix.
Tacking injury time on only creates resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And a resentful wrestler is just going to be pissed off and they might not be safe in the ring. I think that's just a bad business decision all around for everyone.
If the wrestler is actively saying that they want to be released, you know, the bottom. Okay, if you're employing me as a talent, I'm gonna go out there. I do a match, I do a promo, whatever. How much enthusiasm am I gonna have for that? Are you really getting my best? Subsequently, you have this guy over here who wants to be here and wants to put out his best. You should, let me go and put that guy on TV.
Exactly. And the thing is wrestling's kind of about seizing your moment and striking while the iron's hot with opportunity. There's a lot of wonderful wrestlers that are currently under contract with ROH, and they don't even have a fucking show. And I know they're shopping it around to try to get a show, and there's talk of them moving the content to HBO Max, which would be a smart move at this point because you can't really go further down. And today's modern day cable ratings, it is very flawed because there are a lot of people who don't watch live.
And I do think that when we haven't talked about this, and this is probably a larger topic for another episode, but I do think at some point we are going to see TNA, AEW, possibly NWA, like actually having full shows on larger streaming platforms, whether it's Prime or Max or Hulu, Disney Plus. I'll be really honest. Disney Plus is one I'm surprised doesn't have one already. Disney is a company that has been known to branch out and have little bits of business venture all over the place. MGM used to host WCW Saturday Night for many years, and I wouldn't be. Yeah, I'm really surprised that a deal has not been made between. Like, if I was Disney, I think I'd probably be trying to work something out with TNA. To be honest, I think
it's right there. Or hell, I'm NXT Orlando. It's right there. You know, and my big thing is I'm not a big fan of people losing their jobs for no reason. I think there has to be strategic business decisions where, when it comes to things like this, there needs to be a plan. And I'm not going to speak to Tony Khan's plan. I have no insight into his mind, and I see your other comment down here where you talk about Tony Khan's dad. Tony's his own man. This is Tony's money involved. Tony's the one operating it. His dad can't tell him shit. Tony's a billionaire on his own, too. And that's the thing about billionaires. They will earn money in spite of themselves.
So I don't think that it's really a matter of making like wide roster cuts like we've seen from WWE in the past in order to bring up that stock value. I don't think that's the answer. I do think that like a generalized cutting of the fat is necessary for every company
Mm-hmm.
across the board. And I'm saying that, and I've been that fat that had to get trimmed. And I didn't like it when I was the one being let go. But then I looked back and said, yeah, what was I adding right now? My story had run its course, or my time had run its course.
Yeah, no, and it's a logical conclusion, and I don't think that it serves the purpose to just cut your losses. And like you spoke to with the stock prices, WWE was inflating their stock value by doing that every single time. It's a form of legal stock manipulation, but it just makes you look like an asshole. And I will give AEW credit where they haven't just cut people all willy nilly. And there's been a lot of like nonprofit work, and a lot of good things have come about it. We just want them to get back to that, to get back to doing good. And right now, I would love to be able to do a watch along of AEW Fight for Fallen that they're doing in Asheville, North Carolina. I've got friends from the area. I was devastated by a hurricane. I don't know if I can stay awake. That's how bad the product has become. I was watching um, Dynamite this last week, a replay of it, and I fell asleep in the middle of it. And I know I'm a 36-year-old dad, so obviously there's a lot of dad jokes there, but like I was bored.
No, it's completely understandable because the thing is, okay, it's a law of diminishing returns. AEW has not recognized this. This is a big. We've talked for years. There's been this like consistent topic that's come up about hitting the spots, those high spots, all through the match. Bum 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 bum. Well, the thing is, like WCW back in the Nitro days, they used to open up with a cruiserweight match, big high spot
Crowd
fest, right?
Get the crowd out.
Right.
Makes
Get the crowd hot, and then you get into, and then like right after that, we're going into a promo segment,
mm-hmm.
right? And now with the promo segment, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of our storylines for the show. But with AEW, what is happening is it's spot fest, spot fest, spot fest, spot fest, spot fest. This is, and I'm not saying there are matches that are different, but the matches that aren't pure spot fests are the ones that are being like run essentially by seasoned vets. Every match can't have Christian Cage in it. Every match can't have Chris Jericho in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
even those performers are still having to deal with the guy on the other side of the ring still wanting to hit high spot, high spot, high spot. It's a law of diminishing returns. If you're hitting high spots all through the goddamn show, why am I going to be like amazed when a shooting star press gets hit in 2 hours into it? It's just like, yeah, well, I've seen that 30 times already.
exactly. Well, we'll do one last final question, Eric. Do you think they'll try to repackage Dynamite and Rampage as brands like Raw and SmackDown? First and foremost, I think they need to get rid of Rampage. They have Collision now on Saturdays. It's a much more beneficial show. Um, I personally think they should just do a full hard ROH AEW roster brand splits, like keep them separate shows, and you can have a big ROH versus AEW pay per view once per year. That'd be cool. I don't think it serves a purpose to keep Rampage around, let alone Collision, especially on a network where you're competing with the NBA some nights or MLB or hockey. I think they need to move away from cable, and I think they need to get onto a network or onto a streaming service. I think cable is doing them a disservice here. I Please, for the love of God, stop doing blood and guts as a normal fucking show. It should be a pay per view match. And
Yeah.
I say that having attended it and enjoying it. I don't want
Evan
to
and I
sit through 2.5, 3 hours of a show with two fucking big rings next to each other, or like in the case of World War III in WCW, where they had three rings. The whole show had all three fucking rings. It takes away from the experience.
It really does. Because at the end of the day, you got these guys wrestling in this ring, and even if they incorporate that other ring, you're just, it reminds you of what you're really here to see. You're here to
Exactly.
see that cage drop down. That's the only match that is going to
Yeah.
matter
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the night. In terms of your question, Eric, I do think it would be a good idea for kind of a big show repackage, kind of soft reset at a different set, maybe a new logo, not not
Okay.
not not brand logo. Keep your AEW logo, but a new show logo. Just freshen everything up. This is nothing new. We've seen them do this with both Raw and SmackDown. Every couple of years for a long time, and I just think that AEW is at a point that it really needs a facelift, and I think that would help in terms of just presentation. Just generic presentation. Get some more color out there. Get some more liveliness out there.
I
Um,
agree. Full on agree there. I think just a full on like reset and develop plans for the love of God. Just even if it's scribbles in a notebook and you can have some flexibility if injuries happen, but like stop
if
allowing
you,
guys to just go to random fucking indie shows all the time. Be strategic about it.
it, it's not feeling special. And that's the real thing. Is it always if your big name guys are going someplace to an indie place, that should be special on like multiple levels.
Like Jericho
Um,
in GCW this last week. That was special. That was unique. He attacked Cardona and Effie, which is kind of funny.
Cardona versus Jericho in WWE. It could happen. It could
I think
happen.
Jericho will end up back in WWE at some point. I just.
Oh, I definitely think he will for no other reason than to get his ring.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. I'm happy to be back, guys. I know, Brian, I could speak for you on that too. You're happy to be back. And
I hate
as
it here.
always, guys, check out our sponsor, enforce2.com. Enter the code SOG24 to get your 24% off discount.
It'll make you HARD.
Good night.
Not everybody.